If your life feels noisy, unfocused, heavy, this is not the end. This is the reset. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another shortcut. You need to reclaim control of your mind. Because every breakdown is a signal. Every failure is feedback. And every moment of confusion is an invitation to restart. Asterisk asterisk with clarity asterisk asterisk. This audiobook is not here to comfort you. It is here to reset your thinking, restart your direction, and refocus your power. Listen closely. What you repeat, you become. And today, everything changes. Chapter 1. Your life isn't broken. Your focus is. Let's get something straight, right now. Your life is not broken. You are not damaged. You are not behind. Your focus is fractured. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. Because it's easier to blame circumstances than to take responsibility for attention. You've been trying to fix outcomes, money, relationships, confidence, direction. But outcomes are symptoms. Focus is the cause. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Say it again. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Most people don't have a life problem. They have an attention problem. They wake up already distracted. They check their phone before they check their priorities. They react before they decide. They consume before they create. And then they wonder why nothing changes. You have a choice. You always have a choice. But the choice comes before motivation, before confidence, before clarity. That's the key. Look at high potential people, smart people, capable people, people who should be further ahead. They're not lazy. They're overloaded, busy but not effective, moving but not progressing, doing everything but finishing nothing. They mistake activity for achievement and distraction for rest. That's not a character flaw. It's a focus failure. It's not about intelligence. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Motivation comes and goes. Focus decides what stays. Every day, your attention is being pulled in 100 directions. Notifications, opinions, expectations, drama, noise. None of it is neutral. Everything you focus on is training you. Your brain doesn't know the difference between useful focus and useless focus. It only knows repetition. What you repeat, you reinforce. What you reinforce, you become. That's the mechanism. That's the system. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Let's talk behavior. When you feel overwhelmed, what do? You scroll. You avoid. You research. You distract yourself and call it rest. That's not recovery. That's escape. And escape doesn't solve pressure. It multiplies it. You don't need to feel better. You need to see better. You don't need more energy. You need fewer targets. That's the key. Here's the hard truth. If you can't focus for 30 minutes, you can't control your life. That's not an insult. That's a diagnostic. Because focus is the muscle that moves everything else. No focus? No follow-through. No follow-through? No trust in yourself. No trust in yourself? No confidence. And people try to fix confidence with affirmations. Wrong target. Fix focus. Everything else follows. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Let's break the illusion. You don't need their permission to focus. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. You don't need to explain why you're choosing depth over noise. You don't need their permission. Most people stay distracted because they're afraid of disappointing others. They answer everything. They say yes to everything. They react to everything. And in doing so, they abandon themselves. That's the cost. Focus requires disappointment. Someone will be unhappy. Someone will feel ignored. Let them. You have a choice. High performers aren't superhuman. They're selective. They decide in advance what matters. And they eliminate everything else. Not someday. They don't wait until they feel focused. They act focused until focus becomes natural. That's discipline. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you do despite how you feel. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. Say it again. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop starting your day without a target. Stop letting your phone decide your mood. Stop multitasking and calling it productivity. Stop reacting to urgency instead of importance. Urgent is loud. Important is quiet. And if you don't choose the quiet, the loud will own you. That's the pattern. Here's what you must start doing. Choose one priority per block of time. What? Not 5. Not kind of. What? Give it full attention. No background noise. No notifications. No open tabs. This will feel uncomfortable at first. But discomfort is the signal that focus is rebuilding. You are retraining your attention. You are rewiring your mind. That's the work. Let's make this practical. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, decide one task that moves your life forward. Not the easiest. Not the loudest. The one that matters. Set a timer for 30 minutes. And for those 30 minutes, you do nothing else. No checking. No switching. No negotiating. When your mind wanders, and it will, you bring it back. Again. And again. And again. That repetition is the training. That's the key. You don't need to do this all day. You need to do it consistently. Consistency beats intensity. Every time. Small focus, repeated daily, rebuilds self-trust. And self-trust changes how you see yourself. You stop saying, I'm trying. You start saying, I do. Identity shifts. Where your focus goes, your life follows. Understand this. Your attention is the most valuable resource you have. More valuable than money. More valuable than time. Because attention determines how time and money are used. And right now, too much of your attention is being wasted. Not stolen. Given away. You have a choice. Take it back. This chapter is not about doing more. It's about doing less, better. It's not about speed. It's about direction. You don't need to run faster. You need to stop running in circles. Focus is how you draw a straight line. That's the reset. Lock this in. You are not broken. You are distracted. And distraction is reversible. With discipline. With intention. With repetition. This is where control begins. You've identified the root cause. Now you must learn how to interrupt the damage it creates. You've seen the problem clearly. Now it's time to stop feeding it. You've reclaimed awareness. Now you reclaim authority. You've stopped blaming circumstances. Now you stop reacting to them. You've corrected the target. Now you install the reset. You've understood focus. Now you learn how to interrupt chaos in real time. You've taken the first step. Now it's time to act differently when pressure hits. Chapter 2. Stop reacting. Start resetting. Most people are not failing because they are weak. They are failing because they are reactive. They wake up reactive. They live reactive. They sleep reactive. Something happens. They respond without thinking. Emotion takes the wheel. Impulse hits the gas. And slowly, quietly, their life drifts off course. Reaction drains power. Reset restores it. That's the key. Every argument that lasted longer than it should have. Every bad decision that cost you weeks. Every emotional spiral that turned one bad moment into a bad month. It wasn't the event. It was your reaction. You didn't lose control because life is unfair. You lost control because you didn't pause. You reacted. And reaction is expensive. One careless reaction can ruin a relationship. One emotional reaction can kill momentum. One impulsive reaction can sabotage years of effort. You've seen it happen. You've lived it. A message arrives. You fire back instantly. Now there's tension. A mistake happens. You explode emotionally. Now there's damage. A delay. A rejection. A criticism. And suddenly your mood collapses. Your focus breaks. Your discipline disappears. Not because you're incapable, because you reacted instead of resetting. You have a choice, boys. But reaction convinces you that you don't. Reaction says, I had no option. Reaction says, it just happened. Reaction lies. Reset tells the truth. Reset says, pause. Reset says, breathe. Reset says, choose again. That's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who move forward. Reactive people live at the mercy of the world. Disciplined people live by design. And discipline starts with this single skill. The ability to reset your internal state before you respond. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Right now. Let me make this clear. Reaction is emotional muscle memory. Reset is trained behavior. You weren't born reactive. You practiced it. Every time you snapped. Every time you avoided. Every time you numbed yourself instead of facing discomfort. You trained reaction. Now you will train reset. Because life will never stop testing you. People will disappoint you. Plans will break. Stress will show up uninvited. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need perfect conditions to stay disciplined. You need a reset. Here's how reactions destroy time. One argument ruins a day. That ruined day affects your sleep. Poor sleep ruins tomorrow. Now the week is off. Now habits slip. Now motivation drops. Now months pass. All because of one unreset reaction. It's not about anger. It's not about sensitivity. It's not about personality. It's about discipline. The discipline to interrupt the spiral. Most people don't lose years at once. They lose them in emotional installments. A bad morning. A wasted afternoon. A numbed evening. Repeat. And then they wonder where time went. Resetting stops the leak. Resetting puts you back in command. And it starts with a daily ritual. Simple. Non-negotiable. Boring. That's why it works. This is the daily mental reset. You will hear it again. You will practice it again. You will build your life around it. Because without reset, discipline collapses. Here's the ritual. First, pause your body. Before you try to fix your thoughts, stop your movement. So, stand still. Unclench your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Your body leads your mind, not the other way around. Second, control your breathing. Inhale slowly through the nose. For seconds. 2 seconds. Exhale through the mouth. 6 seconds. Do it again. Reaction lives in shallow breath. Reset lives in slow breath. Third, name the state you're in. Say it clearly. I'm angry. I'm anxious. I'm disappointed. I'm triggered. Labeling creates distance. Distance creates control. You are not the emotion. You are observing it. That's the key. Fourth, ask one question. What is the disciplined response here? Not the emotional one. Not the satisfying one. The disciplined one. You have a choice. You always do. Fifth, decide once. Act once. Then move on. No replaying. No rumination. No self-punishment. Reset means reset. This ritual takes 2 to 5 minutes. That's it. But those minutes save you years. People resist this because it feels too simple. They want complexity. They want excuses. But discipline is simple. Execution is hard. Reaction feels fast. Reset feels slow. But speed without direction is chaos. Reset gives you direction. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If you don't reset daily, you are choosing to live reactively. Silence is a reset. Stillness is a reset. Intentional pause is a reset. Scrolling is not a reset. Complaining is not a reset. Sleeping it off without reflection is not a reset. You don't need their permission to step back. You don't need validation to slow down. You need discipline. Let's talk about triggers. Your triggers are predictable. They repeat. Certain people, certain words, certain situations. Reaction says, they made me feel this way. Reset says, I let this hijack me. Ownership changes everything. When you own your reactions, you reclaim your power. That's the key. Every time you reset instead of react, you strengthen a new identity. You become someone who doesn't break easily. Someone who doesn't spiral. Someone who responds with clarity. This is not emotional suppression. This is emotional leadership. You feel the emotion. Then you decide. Most people feel the emotion and surrender. Discipline is the pause between feeling and acting. And that pause is trainable. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are untrained. And training begins now. Start small. Reset before replying to messages. Reset before speaking in conflict. Reset before making decisions when tired. One reset at a time. Don't aim to be calm forever. Aim to reset faster. Shorten the gap. From hours to minutes. From minutes to seconds. That's mastery. Reaction drains power. Reset restores it. Repeat it. Reaction drains power. Reset restores it. Let it sink in. Every time you react impulsively, you hand control away. Every time you reset, you take it back. You have a choice, boys. And this choice compounds. One reset doesn't change your life. Hundreds of resets do. This is how discipline replaces weakness. Not with force. With structure. Not with motivation. With systems. The reset ritual is your system. Protect it. Practice it daily, especially on good days. Because discipline built only in crisis is fragile. You don't rise to the level of motivation. You fall to the level of your training. Train reset. And something shifts. Your mind quiets faster. Your emotions settle sooner. Your decisions sharpen. Life doesn't stop being hard. You stop being easily thrown. That's growth. That's control. That's power. You've learned how to stop reacting. You've learned how to reset. Now comes the next level. Because not every battle needs a response. Not every thought deserves airtime. You've reclaimed control over reaction. Now it's time to master restraint. You've slowed the storm. Now you must learn when to speak and when to stay silent. Chapter 3. Discipline begins when motivation dies. Motivation feels good. That's why people worship it. It feels like energy. It feels like clarity. It feels like power. But motivation is not power. Motivation is a mood. And moods expire. Discipline is what remains when motivation disappears. That's the key. Most people are waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel inspired. Waiting to feel confident. And while they wait, life passes. They tell themselves, I'll start when I feel motivated. They say, I'm just not in the right mindset today. They promise, tomorrow I'll be different. Tomorrow comes. Motivation doesn't. And the cycle repeats. You don't rise to motivation. You fall to discipline. Let that land. When pressure hits, when stress shows up, when energy drops, you don't magically perform at your best. You default to your habits. You default to your standards. You default to your discipline, or lack of it. Motivation is loud at the beginning. Discipline is quiet in the middle. Results show up at the end. Most people quit in the quiet because no one taught them this truth. Discipline begins when motivation dies. Not before. Not during. After. When you don't feel like it. When it's boring. When it's uncomfortable. When there's no emotional reward. That's where discipline lives. Athletes know this. They don't train because they're motivated. They train because it's scheduled. They wake up sore. They wake up tired. They wake up unexcited. And they train anyway. Builders know this. They don't wait for inspiration to lay bricks. They lay bricks because the work demands it. Creators know this. They don't wait for the perfect mood to create. They create and the mood follows. But most people don't live like athletes, builders, or creators. They live like emotional gamblers. If they feel good, they act. If they don't, they stop. That's not a strategy. That's a trap. Waiting to feel good is the trap. That's the key. Your mind is designed to conserve energy. It avoids discomfort. It seeks pleasure. Motivation is pleasure-driven. Discipline is principle-driven. Motivation asks, how do I feel? Discipline asks, what needs to be done? Very different questions. Very different outcomes. Here's the psychological truth. When you wait for motivation, you train inconsistency. When you act without motivation, you train self-trust. Self-trust compounds. Every time you do what you said you would do, despite how you feel, you send a signal to your brain. I am reliable. I keep my word. I can be trusted. That changes identity. And identity drives behavior. This is not about willpower. Willpower is limited. This is about systems and standards. Stop asking yourself, do I feel like it? Start asking, is this my standard? Standards remove debate. If brushing your teeth required motivation, you'd lose them. You don't negotiate with basics. You just do them. Discipline turns important actions into basics. You don't need their permission to act tired. You don't need approval to show up uninspired. You have a choice. Boys. And the choice is simple. Feelings first. Or commitments first. One builds weakness. The other builds power. Let's talk about what to stop. Stop romanticizing motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop treating discomfort like danger. Discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is information. It tells you you're stretching. It tells you you're growing. It tells you discipline is being built. Avoiding discomfort trains fragility. Now what to start? Start acting on schedule, not emotion. Start doing the work at the same time, every day. Start small, but start consistently. Discipline loves routine. Not intensity. Consistency. 10 minutes daily beats 2 hours once a week. 1 rep daily beats 0 reps perfectly planned. You don't need to go hard. You need to go again. That's the key. Here's a rule to live by. Never trust how you feel before the work. Evaluate how you feel after. Motivation often shows up after action, not before. Action creates clarity. Action creates energy. Action creates momentum. Waiting kills all three. Your brain resists starting. It relaxes once you're moving. That's biology, not weakness. Use it. Tell yourself, I'll just start. Not, I'll finish. Starting bypasses resistance. Finishing becomes easier once you're in motion. This is how disciplined people operate. They don't argue with their feelings. They outwork them. Not aggressively. Consistently. quietly. There will be days you hate the work. There will be days you doubt yourself. There will be days you feel nothing. Those are the most important days, because those days decide who you are becoming. Anyone can act when motivated. Few can act when empty. Be one of the few. It's not about talent. It's not about passion. It's about discipline. Say it again. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Discipline is a muscle. It strengthens with use. It weakens with excuses. Every excuse feels justified in the moment. Every excuse costs you later. Confidence. Self-respect. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. You don't need validation to do the work. Most people won't understand your consistency. They're too busy negotiating with their feelings. Let them. You're building something they can't see yet. One more truth. Motivation is external. Discipline is internal. Motivation depends on music, mood, people, circumstances. Discipline depends on decision. External things are unstable. Internal standards endure. When motivation dies, and it will, discipline carries you forward. That's how real progress is made. Not in bursts. In blocks. Not emotionally. Structurally. Your job is not to feel ready. Your job is to show up. Ready comes later. Confidence comes later. Pride comes later. First comes discipline. You've learned how to stop reacting. You've learned how to reset. Now you understand why motivation cannot be trusted. Discipline is the backbone of control. Without it, everything collapses. But discipline alone is not enough. Because discipline without direction becomes exhaustion. You need to know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You've mastered action without emotion. Now it's time to master focus. Chapter 4. You can't restart while dragging the past. You say you want a new life, a new mindset, a new direction, but you keep carrying the old one. Old mistakes, old shame, old stories about who you are and what you did. And then you wonder why nothing changes. You can't restart while dragging the past. That's the key. The past only has power because you keep replaying it. Not because it's strong. Because you keep feeding it attention. Memory without control becomes a prison. And most people are living inside one. They revisit old conversations. They replay old failures. They relive moments they wish they could undo. Over and over. Day after day. And every replay reinforces the same identity. I'm the one who messed up. I'm the one who wasted time. I'm the one who failed. That identity becomes a ceiling. You don't move forward because part of you is still living backward. Release is a decision, not an emotion. Let that settle. Most people wait to feel ready to let go. They wait for closure. They wait for forgiveness. They wait for time to magically erase pain. That day never comes. Because release doesn't come from feeling better. Feeling better comes after release. That's the order. You have a choice. Boys. You can keep rehearsing the past. Or you can close the chapter. Regret is not reflection. Shame is not accountability. Reflection leads to growth. Shame leads to stagnation. There's a difference. Reflection says, "What did I learn?" Shame says, "What's wrong with me?" One moves you forward. The other keeps you stuck. And here's the truth. Your brain doesn't know the difference between past and present when you replay emotion. Every time you relive the moment, your nervous system reacts as if it's happening again. Same stress. Same tension. Same collapse of confidence. So you're not remembering. You're re-experiencing. And you're doing it voluntarily. That's the part most people avoid. You are participating in your own imprisonment. That's not about trauma. It's about discipline. You don't need their permission to move on. You don't need approval to forgive yourself. Waiting for external closure is another trap. Closure is internal. It's a line you draw. Let's talk about identity. Most people don't change because they're loyal to an old version of themselves. The former failure. The broken one. The person who always messes things up. That identity feels familiar. And familiarity feels safe, even when it hurts. So they protect it. They say, that's just how I am. They say, I've always been like this. Those sentences are anchors. And you can't sail forward with anchors down. It's not about what happened. It's about what you keep saying it means. That's the key. What you must stop doing. Stop explaining your future using your past. Stop introducing yourself to yourself using old labels. Stop collecting evidence of who you used to be. You don't need to deny the past. You need to stop living inside it. Now what you must start doing. You must consciously close chapters. Not once. Again and again. Because the mind reopens them automatically. Here's the practice. Simple. Uncomfortable. Effective. When a past memory surfaces, regret, shame, embarrassment, you do not argue with it. You don't analyze it. You don't justify it. You don't punish yourself with it. You acknowledge it. Then you say, out loud if possible, that chapter is closed. That's it. Not because it feels true. Because you decide it's true. Release is a decision, not an emotion. Say it again. Release is a decision, not an emotion. You repeat this every time the mind pulls you backward. 10 times a day if needed. 100 times. Discipline is repetition. The mind learns through consistency, not intensity. Most people try to heal the past by thinking more about it. That keeps it alive. You heal the past by removing its authority over your present. Authority comes from attention. Withdraw attention. Close the chapter. This does not mean pretending nothing happened. It means you've extracted the lesson and released the identity. Lesson stays. Identity goes. That's growth. And understand this. You cannot build a future self while defending a past self. One has to go. You have a choice. Carry regret as proof you're unworthy. Or carry wisdom as proof you've grown. Only one moves you forward. Shame feels productive because it feels heavy. But heaviness is not progress. Discipline is light. It creates space. It creates clarity. The disciplined mind does not revisit the same emotional debt endlessly. It pays it once, then moves on. Now listen carefully. Forgiveness is not approval. Letting go is not excusing. Moving forward is not forgetting. It's choosing not to bleed from a wound that has already closed. You don't need their permission to stop punishing yourself. No one benefits from your self-attack. Not you. Not the people you hurt. Not the future you want. Self-punishment feels moral. But it's selfish. Because it keeps you small. And small people can't contribute fully. The world doesn't need you trapped in regret. It needs you disciplined and present. That's the key. Old patterns will try to pull you back. The urge to replay. The urge to explain. The urge to relive. Expect it. And respond the same way every time. First, breathe. That chapter is closed. No emotion required. This is mental training. Just like discipline replaced motivation, discipline replaces rumination. Weakness says, but it still hurts. Discipline says, and I'm still moving. It's not about pain. It's about direction. You can feel pain and still advance. Most people wait to feel healed before they move. They never move. Movement creates healing. Action creates identity. The present moment is the only place you can act. The past offers no leverage. Only lessons. Take the lesson. Leave the weight. Say it again. Take the lesson. Leave the weight. You are not starting over from nothing. You are starting over from experience. But only if you stop dragging it. You've learned to stop reacting. You've learned to act without motivation. Now you're learning to release without permission. This is how real resets happen. Not by erasing history. By ending its control. You've closed the chapter. Now you must protect the page you're on. Because not everything deserves access to your mind. You've let go of the past. Now it's time to guard what enters your present. Chapter 5. Clarity is created by action, not thinking. Most people think they're stuck because they don't know enough. They say they're confused, uncertain, overwhelmed. That's not the truth. They're afraid. Overthinking is disguised fear. That's the key. Thinking feels productive. Planning feels responsible. Analyzing feels safe. Action feels risky. So they stay in their head. They replay options. They imagine outcomes. They wait for certainty. And clarity never comes. Because clarity is not found in thought. Clarity is created by movement. Action creates clarity. Stillness creates doubt. Say it again. Action creates clarity. Stillness creates doubt. Every person you admire learned by doing. Not by waiting. They didn't know everything. They weren't confident. They weren't ready. They moved anyway. And movement answered questions thinking never could. Here's what overthinking really is. It's the brain trying to protect you from discomfort, from embarrassment, from failure. So it asks for more information, more certainty, more reassurance. But certainty is a myth. You don't get certainty before action. You get it after. That's the order. You have a choice. Stay in your head and feel busy. Or step into action and feel exposed. One preserves ego. The other builds skill. That's the key. Look at real life. People wait years to start businesses because they're not sure. They delay workouts until the perfect plan. They postpone conversations because they don't know the right words. And while they wait, opportunities close. Not because they weren't capable, because they didn't move. Athletes don't think their way into form. They train. Writers don't think their way into clarity. They write. Leaders don't think their way into confidence. They lead. Action reveals truth. Thinking hides from it. Now listen carefully. Overthinking is not intelligence. It's avoidance. It feels sophisticated, but it's fear wearing clean clothes. Fear of being wrong. Fear of wasting time. Fear of looking foolish. So the mind says, just think a little more. And years pass. You don't need their permission to start imperfectly. You don't need approval to take the first step. You need discipline. Because discipline moves even when the mind protests. Here's the psychology. The brain reduces uncertainty through feedback. Feedback only comes from action. No action. No feedback. No feedback. No clarity. So the brain stays anxious. It stays busy. It stays loud. Action quiets the mind. Not instantly, but reliably. Thinking creates scenarios. Action creates data. Data beats imagination every time. What you must stop doing. Stop waiting to feel sure. Stop rehearsing decisions endlessly. Stop mistaking motionless planning for progress. Stop asking, what's the perfect move? Start asking, what's the next move? Perfection delays. Next steps advance. Now what you must start doing. Start moving before you feel ready. Start testing instead of theorizing. Start treating action as information gathering. Every action answers a question. Can I do this? Yes, partially. Is this the right path? Closer than before. Even wrong action teaches faster than perfect thinking. That's the key. Here's a rule. If you've been thinking about something for more than 48 hours, you're avoiding it. Decide. Adjust. That's the cycle. Decide small. Act fast. Adjust often. You don't need to commit forever. You need to commit forward. Most people want guarantees. Life doesn't offer them. Life offers feedback. And feedback belongs to movers. Fear says, "What if this fails?" Discipline says, "Then I learn." Fear says, "What if I choose wrong?" Discipline says, "Then I course correct." It's not about being right. It's about being in motion. That's the key. Stillness feels safe, but it's expensive. It costs momentum. It costs confidence. It costs self-trust. Every time you delay action, you teach yourself that hesitation is acceptable. And hesitation becomes a habit. Action trains courage. Delay trains doubt. Choose what you train. You have a choice. Now let's talk about clarity. Clarity is not a lightning strike. It's a gradual sharpening. You start blurry. You move. Things sharpen. You move again. They sharpen more. Clarity is the reward for participation, not contemplation. If you want to know what you want, do something. If you want to know what you're capable of, try. If you want to know what works, test. The mind hates this because it wants certainty without exposure. That's not how growth works. Growth requires friction. Action creates friction. Friction creates feedback. Feedback creates clarity. Say it again. Action creates clarity. Now here's the discipline practice. When faced with indecision, limit thinking time. Set a timer. 10 minutes. List options. Choose one. No reopening the debate. Discipline is deciding once. If the action is reversible, move immediately. If it's irreversible, still don't overthink, just slow down slightly. But don't freeze. Freezing feels like safety. It's not. Freezing is surrender. And understand this. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. Action is a prerequisite for confidence. You don't feel confident, then act. You act, then confidence catches up. Waiting reverses the order and kills progress. That's the trap. Waiting to feel good. Waiting to feel clear. Waiting to feel certain. Waiting is how potential rots. You don't need their permission to be a beginner. You don't need permission to be messy. You need discipline to move. It's not about intelligence. It's not about talent. It's not about timing. It's about discipline. Discipline acts through uncertainty. Most people don't fail because they chose wrong. They fail because they didn't choose at all. Indecision is a decision, and it always chooses stagnation. Action, even flawed action, keeps doors open. Stillness closes them. Let this sink in. The version of you who acts imperfectly will always outperform the version of you who thinks perfectly. Every time. Because life rewards participation. Now look at your life. Were you stuck in thought? Where are you rehearsing instead of doing? Where are you waiting for clarity that can only come after action? That's where discipline belongs. Take one step today. Not the whole plan. Not the final form. One step. Send the message. Start the workout. Create the draft. Make the call. Small action. Real movement. And once you move, something happens. The noise lowers. The doubt weakens. The path becomes visible. Not because you thought harder. Because you moved. You've learned to stop reacting. You've learned to act without motivation. You've learned to release the past. Now you've learned the truth about clarity. Clarity is built, not found. And the builder's tool is action. But action alone isn't enough. Because action without boundaries leads to burnout. Action without focus leads to waste. You've learned to move. Now you must learn when to stop. Because mastery isn't just about doing more. It's about knowing when enough is enough. Chapter 6. Your environment is programming you. You think you're making choices. Most of the time, you're being shaped. Quietly, consistently, daily. Your environment is your silent coach. That's the key. What you hear, what you see, what you scroll, what you tolerate, all of it is training you. Not occasionally, constantly. And the training never stops. If you don't choose your environment, it chooses you. You have a choice, boys. But most people never exercise it. They wake up and consume before they decide. They listen before they think. They absorb before they act. And then they wonder why discipline feels hard. Because discipline is being trained against. Look at your inputs. Conversations filled with complaints. Feeds filled with outrage. Entertainment filled with distraction. That's not neutral. That's programming. Your nervous system adapts to what it's exposed to. Your beliefs form around repeated messages. Your standards lower when chaos feels normal. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. Your environment doesn't need permission to influence you. It's already doing it. That's the key. Think about social media. You call it just scrolling. Your brain calls it pattern recognition. Thousands of images, opinions, comparisons. Every swipe trains desire. Every clip trains attention. Every comment trains reaction. You don't leave unchanged. No one does. If your feed is reactive, you become reactive. If your feed is lazy, you become passive. If your feed is focused, you become sharper. Your environment is your silent coach. Now think about conversations. Who do you talk to most? People who complain. People who excuse. People who laugh at discipline. Or people who act. People who build. People who expect more. Conversation is programming. What you tolerate in speech, you tolerate in behavior. If excuses are normal around you, discipline feels extreme. If focus is rare, distraction feels acceptable. You don't need their permission to raise your standards. But you must protect them. Let's talk psychology. The brain is efficient. It mirrors what it sees often. It normalizes what it hears repeatedly. This is not motivation. This is conditioning. You don't become strong by wanting it. You become strong by living in strength-supporting environments. The same is true for weakness. Passive entertainment trains passivity. Negative news trains anxiety. Constant noise trains restlessness. Stillness feels uncomfortable because your environment trained you to need stimulation. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You have a choice. Now let's get practical. What you must stop doing. Stop letting random inputs fill your day. Stop starting mornings with noise. Stop ending nights with distraction. Stop calling consumption relaxation when it leaves you drained. Stop pretending it doesn't affect you. That's the lie. Now what you must start doing. You must audit your inputs. Not once. Repeatedly. Because environments drift. Here's the audit. Ask yourself, honestly, what do I listen to daily? What do I watch daily? Who do I speak to daily? What do I read daily? Then ask the real question. Is this training discipline or eroding it? No guilt. No drama. Just truth. If it erodes discipline, it goes. That's the key. You don't need their permission to unfollow. You don't need permission to mute. You don't need permission to step back. Protecting your mind is not arrogance. It's leadership. Your own leadership. Now rebuild your environment intentionally. Replace noise with silence. Replace outrage with education. Replace passivity with purposeful content. Not endlessly. Selectively. You don't need more information. You need better inputs. 10 minutes of focused reading beats 2 hours of scrolling. One disciplined conversation beats 10 complaining ones. Quality over quantity. And remember this: your environment includes your physical space. Messy space trains scattered thinking. Clean space trains order. You don't need perfection. You need control. Clear one surface, one drawer, one desk. Action creates clarity, and clarity strengthens discipline. That's the key. Now let's talk entertainment. Entertainment is not evil, but passive consumption without limits is. If you never choose when to stop, you're being chosen for. Set boundaries. Decide when you consume. Decide when you stop. Discipline is deciding once. You have a choice. Every time you pick up your phone, every time you turn on a screen, every time you enter a conversation. Choice is not about willpower. It's about design. Design your environment so discipline is easier. Place books where your phone used to be. Place silence where noise used to be. Place intention where habit used to be. You don't rise to discipline. You fall to your environment. That's the key. And here's the hardest truth. Sometimes the environment you must change is people. Not because they're bad, but because they're incompatible with who you're becoming. Growth creates distance. Discipline creates contrast. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need approval to outgrow conversations. You can love people and limit access. That's maturity. You can respect others and protect yourself. That's discipline. Now listen carefully. This is not about isolation. It's about alignment. You don't cut everyone off. You choose carefully who gets influence. Influence is earned, not automatic. Your mind is valuable territory. Stop letting anyone walk through it. Audit again. What you hear, what you see, what you consume. Do it weekly. Do it monthly. Because discipline is maintained, not achieved. Your environment will always try to drift back to comfort. Comfort weakens standards. Stay alert. And understand this. When discipline feels hard, don't blame yourself first. Check your environment. When focus disappears, don't force it. Remove distractions. When motivation dies, don't chase it. Change your inputs. That's the key. Your environment is not background noise. It's the soundtrack of your life. Choose it carefully. You've learned to stop reacting. You've learned to act without motivation. You've learned to move without clarity. You've learned to release the past. Now you're learning to control what shapes you. Because control starts outside before it strengthens inside. But even the best environment can't save you if you leak energy everywhere. You've protected your inputs. Now it's time to protect your output. Because not every demand deserves your response. You've cleaned the space around you. Now you must master the space within your day. Chapter 7. Energy is a decision you make daily. Most people say they're tired. They say they're exhausted, burned out, low energy. They assume something is wrong with them. That's not always true. Fatigue is often mental, not physical. That's the key. Low energy is a mindset pattern, not a diagnosis, not a life sentence. A pattern. And patterns can be changed. Most people don't lose energy because they do too much. They lose energy because they do too little of what matters. They drift. They hesitate. They negotiate with themselves all day. That drains energy faster than work ever could. You wake up with potential. You spend the day undecided. You go to bed tired without accomplishment. That kind of tired is poison. Energy does not come from comfort. Energy comes from commitment. Say it again. Energy follows commitment, not comfort. That's the key. Look closely at your low energy days. You didn't move much. You didn't decide much. You didn't complete much. Your body wasn't overworked. Your mind was under lead. Indecision drains energy. Avoidance drains energy. Half commitment drains energy. Decisive action creates momentum. Momentum creates energy. You don't wait for energy to act. You act to generate energy. You have a choice. Every morning, most people make it unconsciously. They choose comfort. They stay in bed a little longer. They delay the hard task. They push decisions to later. Later comes. Energy doesn't. Because comfort numbs. It doesn't fuel. Now look at disciplined people. They're not superhuman. They don't feel amazing all the time. They decide early. They move early. They commit early. And energy rises to meet them. That's not motivation. That's momentum. Athletes don't wait to feel energized before training. Builders don't wait to feel excited before working. Parents don't wait to feel rested before showing up. They commit. And commitment creates structure. Structure creates rhythm. Rhythm creates energy. That's the sequence. Let's talk psychology. The brain conserves energy when it senses uncertainty. It releases energy when it senses purpose. If your day has no clear commitments, your brain stays in low-power mode. Scrolling, snacking, procrastinating. Those aren't relaxation behaviors. They're avoidance behaviors. Avoidance feels heavy. Purpose feels light. That's the key. It's not about sleep alone. It's not about food alone. It's not about supplements or hacks. Those matter, but they're secondary. Primary energy is psychological. It comes from knowing what you're doing and why. People who reclaim energy don't change goals first. They change routines. They stop waking up randomly. They stop starting days without direction. They stop letting mood decide movement. They simplify. Wake up. Move the body. Decide the priority. Simple doesn't mean easy. Simple means clear. Clarity restores energy. Confusion drains it. You don't need their permission to protect your mornings. You don't need approval to design your day. You have a choice. Now let's get specific. What you must stop doing. Stop treating energy like something that happens to you. Stop waiting to feel energized before acting. Stop blaming tiredness for lack of progress. Stop starting your day with consumption. Stop ending your day without closure. Those habits leak energy. Now what you must start doing. Start deciding your energy anchors. An anchor is a non-negotiable action that signals leadership to your brain. Examples. A short walk every morning. 10 minutes of focused planning. One hard task before checking messages. These are not productivity tricks. They are energy declarations. They tell your nervous system, we are in control today. That's the key. When the brain senses control, it releases energy. When it senses chaos, it shuts down. Your job is not to feel energized. Your job is to create conditions for energy. Conditions come from discipline. Discipline chooses movement over mood. Now understand this. Rest is important. But rest without structure becomes stagnation. There's a difference between recovery and escape. Recovery restores energy. Escape delays responsibility. Be honest. Are you resting or avoiding? Avoidance always costs more energy later. Another truth. Energy is directional. You don't have energy for everything. You allocate it. If your energy is scattered, nothing gets enough. That's why focused people feel energized. They're not doing more. They're doing less with commitment. Multitasking drains energy. Single tasking restores it. Finish something. Completion releases energy. Open loops drain it. That's the key. Finish the workout. Finish the call. Finish the task. Not perfectly. Completely. Your brain rewards completion. That reward feels like energy. Now let's address excuses. I'm just not a high-energy person. I've always been tired. This is just how I am. Those are identity statements. And identity statements become cages. It's not about personality. It's about discipline. Say it. It's not about personality, it's about discipline. Energy is trained. Low energy is trained too. Late nights. Late decisions. Late starts. Those habits teach your system to operate at half power. Change the habits. Energy follows. And no, you don't need to overhaul your life. You need to commit to a few daily standards. Standards remove negotiation. Negotiation drains energy. Decide once. What time you wake up. What you do first. What matters most. Then stop renegotiating. That's discipline. And discipline feels energizing because it removes friction. Most fatigue is friction. Internal arguments. Delayed decisions. Unfinished business. Clear those and energy returns. Now listen carefully. Some days will still feel heavy. That's normal. Discipline doesn't eliminate tiredness. It prevents tiredness from controlling you. You can feel tired and still act. Action often reduces tiredness, because action restores self-respect. And self-respect is energizing. You don't need their permission to show up tired. You don't need approval to do the work imperfectly. You have a choice. Act tired, or sit tired. One builds momentum, the other builds regret. Energy follows commitment, not comfort. Say it again. Energy follows commitment, not comfort. That's the key. Now bring this together. You've learned to control reactions. You've learned to act without motivation. You've learned to move without clarity. You've learned to release the past. You've learned to design your environment. Now you understand energy. Energy is not something you wait for. It's something you generate through disciplined action. But there's one more level. Because even with energy, even with discipline, many people still collapse. Not from tiredness. From overload. They say yes to too much. They spread themselves thin. They confuse activity with progress. You've learned to create energy. Now you must learn to concentrate it. Because power doesn't come from being busy. It comes from being precise. You've built momentum. Now it's time to aim it. Chapter 8. Stop negotiating with your weak side. Every day, there is a conversation happening inside you. Not out loud. Not dramatic. Quiet. Routine. Dangerous. It's a negotiation between the version of you that wants comfort and the version of you that wants control. Every excuse is a negotiation with the version of you that wants comfort. That's the key. You tell yourself, just today. You say, I'll start tomorrow. You whisper, I deserve a break. That voice sounds reasonable. It sounds calm. It sounds logical. It is not. It is the weak voice. And here's the rule you must remember. The weak voice speaks first. The strong voice speaks last. Say it again. The weak voice speaks first. The strong voice speaks last. Weakness always opens the conversation. It rushes in with comfort, with excuses, with emotional logic. Strength never rushes. Strength watches. Strength responds. Most people lose because they answer the first voice. They negotiate. They bargain with discipline. And discipline does not negotiate. Discipline executes. You have a choice, boys. But if you let the weak voice set the terms, the outcome is already decided. Let's get specific. You wake up tired. The weak voice says, skip today. You plan to work. The weak voice says, check your phone first. You know what you should do. The weak voice says, you've done enough. None of these sound destructive. That's why they work. Weakness never asks you to ruin your life. It asks you to delay it. One small delay, one small compromise, and then another. That's how discipline dies. Not in failure, in negotiation. That's the key. Strong people don't have fewer excuses. They refuse to debate them. They don't argue with weakness. They ignore it. They understand something most people don't. Every time you negotiate, you teach your brain that discipline is optional. Optional habits don't survive pressure. Non-negotiable standards do. It's not about motivation. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. Say it. It's not about motivation, it's about discipline. Now let's talk psychology. The weak voice is emotional. It speaks in feelings. I'm tired. I'm not ready. I don't feel like it. The strong voice is procedural. It speaks in actions. Stand up. Start. Finish. The weak voice wants comfort now. The strong voice wants results later. Comfort now always costs more later. That's the trade. And every trade compounds. One skipped workout becomes a week. One avoided conversation becomes a year. One delayed decision becomes a life pattern. Discipline compounds too. One follow-through builds self-trust. Self-trust builds confidence. Confidence builds momentum. But it starts with this rule. No negotiation. When the weak voice speaks, you don't debate. You execute the plan. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop asking yourself how you feel before acting. Stop giving excuses airtime. Stop justifying delay with logic. Logic is a tool. Weakness hijacks it. Now what you must start doing. Start deciding in advance. Decide your actions before emotion shows up. What time you wake up. What you do first. What you do when resistance hits. Pre-decisions remove negotiation. When the moment comes, you don't think. You act. This is how discipline is built. Not with force. With structure. Here's a simple rule. If the action aligns with your standard, do it immediately. No discussion. The discussion is where discipline dies. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. You don't need permission from your mood. Your mood is not in charge. That's the key. Let's look at real life. Two people face the same moment. Alarm goes off early. Person 1 negotiates. 5 more minutes. I didn't sleep well. I'll make it up later. Person 2 executes. Feet on the floor. No thinking. No emotion. After 1 week, there's a gap. After 1 month, it's obvious. After 1 year, they're living different lives. Same talent. Same opportunity. Different response to the weak voice. The weak voice speaks first. The strong voice speaks last. Remember it. And understand this. You don't eliminate weakness. You outgrow its authority. Weakness will always speak. Your job is to stop answering. Silence is power. Execution is louder. Another truth. Negotiation feels kind. But it's cruel. Because every time you negotiate with weakness, you reinforce an identity you're trying to escape. I'm the kind of person who gives in. I'm the kind of person who delays. I'm the kind of person who quits quietly. Identity is built through repetition. Discipline repeats action. Weakness repeats excuses. Choose what you repeat. You have a choice. Now let's address a lie. People say, I'm just being flexible. But flexibility without standards is avoidance. Discipline is not rigidity. It's commitment. You can adapt tactics without negotiating values. Values don't change daily. Moods do. Anchor to values. Execute through mood. That's the key. Here's the practice. When resistance appears, label it. This is the weak voice. That's it. No analysis. No conversation. Label and move. Awareness breaks the spell. Then act immediately. Movement shuts weakness up faster than thinking ever will. Stand up. Start the task. Take the first step. The weak voice loses power once you're in motion, because it feeds on stillness. Stillness invites negotiation. Motion ends it. Now listen carefully. Some days the weak voice will be loud. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're doing something meaningful. Resistance increases when growth is near. That's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to execute. You don't need their permission to be uncomfortable. You don't need comfort to move forward. You need discipline. And discipline is simple. Not easy. Simple. Do what you said you would do. Even when you don't feel like it. Especially then. That's the key. Think about regret. Regret is not created by effort. It's created by avoidance. People regret what they didn't do. Far more than what they tried. Negotiation creates regret. Execution creates peace. Even when it's hard. Because deep down, you know when you honored your standard. Self-respect is born there. And self-respect is powerful. It fuels the next action. And the next. Compounding discipline. This is how weak days turn into strong years. One decision at a time. Not heroic. Consistent. Now bring this home. Where are you negotiating? Where do you bargain with comfort? Where do you delay because it feels easier? That's your leverage point. That's where discipline is waiting. Stop negotiating there. Decide once. Execute daily. And something changes. The weak voice still speaks. But you stop listening. The strong voice becomes automatic. And one day you realize, you no longer argue with yourself. You just move. That's mastery. You've learned to control reactions. You've learned to act without motivation. You've learned to move without clarity. You've learned to protect your energy. You've learned to stop negotiating. Now there's one final shift. Because discipline isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. Real power is quiet. You've stopped talking to weakness. Now it's time to stop explaining yourself to the world. Chapter 9. Focus is saying no without guilt. Focus is not about concentration. That's where most people get it wrong. Focus is not about trying harder. It's not about willpower. It's not about talent. Focus is about refusal. Focus is saying no. Without guilt. Without explanation. Without apology. That's the key. Most people are not unfocused because they are lazy. They are unfocused because they are available. Available to everyone. Available to everything. Available to distraction disguised as responsibility. And distraction survives because of people-pleasing. Every yes costs you focus. Say that again. Every yes costs you focus. You have a choice. Every single day, you are choosing what gets your attention. And attention is not free. Attention is your life. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. Where your energy goes, your results follow. That's the chain. But people don't protect attention. They donate it. They answer messages immediately. They attend meetings that don't matter. They listen to opinions they didn't ask for. They explain decisions that don't require explanation. And then they say, I don't have time. I can't focus. I'm burned out. You're not burned out. You're bled out. Bled out by 1,000 small yes. That's the key. Let's talk psychology. People-pleasing is not kindness. It's fear. Fear of disappointing. Fear of conflict. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being disliked. So you say yes when you mean no. You agree when you don't want to. You show up when you should be protecting your time. And every time you do, you reinforce a dangerous belief. My time is less valuable than their comfort. That belief destroys focus. Because focus requires priority. And priority requires boundaries. Boundaries make people uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid them. But discomfort is not danger. You don't need their permission to protect your time. That's the key. Let's look at real examples. High performers who look successful on the outside, but are exhausted on the inside. Always busy, always responsive, always available. They attend everything. They answer everyone. They never say no. And slowly, their creativity dies. Their energy drops. Their progress stalls. Not because they lack discipline, because they never learned to refuse. Focus is not what you add. It's what you remove. Say it. Focus is not what you add. It's what you remove. Now listen carefully. Saying no does not make you selfish. It makes you effective. Effectiveness requires trade-offs. If you say yes to everything, you are saying no to your highest priorities. Every time. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop explaining your no. Explanations invite negotiation. Negotiation invites guilt. Guilt weakens boundaries. A clean no is respectful. No, I can't commit to that. No, that doesn't align right now. No, I won't be available. That's it. No story. No justification. You don't owe anyone access to your time. You don't need their permission. Now what you must start doing. Start deciding what matters most before the day begins. If everything matters, nothing does. Choose 1 to 3 priorities per day. Protect them ruthlessly. Schedule them first. Guard them aggressively. Everything else is secondary. That's discipline. It's not about being busy. It's about being intentional. It's not about saying no to people. It's about saying yes to purpose. That's the key. Let's address guilt. Guilt is a learned response. It comes from confusing responsibility with obligation. You are responsible for your actions. You are not obligated to meet everyone's expectations. Those are different. Most guilt comes from imagined reactions. You assume they'll be upset. You assume they'll judge you. You assume they'll reject you. And even if they do, so what? Their discomfort is not your emergency. Say it. Their discomfort is not your emergency. High-level focus requires emotional maturity. The ability to tolerate being misunderstood, without rushing to fix it. The ability to disappoint people, without abandoning yourself. That's strength. Now listen. When you start saying no, something interesting happens. Some people disappear. But they were only there because you were available. Others respect you more. Because clarity creates respect. People trust boundaries, even if they don't like them at first. That's the key. Let's get practical. Here are 3 areas where focus is most commonly stolen. 1. Digital noise. Notifications are not neutral. They fracture attention. Turn them off. Not later. Your phone should serve you, not command you. 2. Unstructured conversations. People love to talk. Most talk leads nowhere. Limit it. Set time limits. Exit politely. 3. Emotional dumping. Some people offload their chaos onto you. That drains focus fast. You can listen without absorbing. You can care without caring. Boundaries again. Now understand this. Every focused life looks boring to outsiders. Because focus removes drama. No constant reacting. No constant explaining. Just execution. That's discipline. And discipline feels quiet. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. Say it. It's not about distraction. It's about discipline. You have a choice. You can live reactive, or you can live directed. Reactive lives feel busy. Directed lives feel meaningful. There's another truth. Saying no early is easy. Saying no late is painful. If you don't set boundaries up front, you'll be forced to set them later under stress. Stress magnifies guilt. Clarity eliminates it. So be clear early. That's the key. Now let's connect this back to focus. Focus is not fragile. It's protected. You don't wait for focus to appear. You create the conditions for it to exist. Silence. Boundaries. These are not luxuries. They are requirements. High performers know this. They don't explain their routines. They don't apologize for their standards. They simply live them. And over time, results speak loudly. Now pause. Think about where your focus leaks. Who has unlimited access to you? What constantly interrupts your flow? What do you say yes to out of guilt? That's your work, not tomorrow. You don't fix focus by trying harder. You fix it by removing what doesn't matter. Relentlessly. That's discipline. And discipline is freedom. Freedom from distraction. Freedom from burnout. Freedom from resentment. Because resentment comes from unspoken no's. Say that again. Resentment comes from unspoken no's. Speak them. Cleanly. Calmly. Without guilt. You have a choice. And every choice trains your identity. The person who protects focus becomes the person who produces results. Not once. Consistently. That's the standard. You've learned to stop negotiating with weakness. You've learned to protect your energy. You've learned to say no without guilt. Now there's one more layer. The most powerful form of focus is not just saying no to others. It's saying no to unnecessary noise, including your own. Because the strongest people don't explain. They don't announce. They don't perform discipline. They move quietly, decisively. You've reclaimed your attention. Now it's time to master restraint. Chapter 10. Restart small, win daily. Most people fail at restarting for one simple reason. They try to restart big. Big plans. Big promises. Big declarations. And then nothing. They wait for motivation. They wait for energy. They wait to feel ready. That's the trap. Massive change does not begin with massive action. It begins with controlled, repeatable wins. That's the key. You don't rebuild confidence by thinking differently. You rebuild it by proving something to yourself. Daily. Small discipline beats big intention. Say it again. Small discipline beats big intention. You have a choice. You can keep dreaming about a better version of yourself, or you can start behaving like one for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes. That's where real change starts. Now listen carefully. When people fall off track, they don't lose ability. They lose trust in themselves. They've promised too much, failed too often, quit too many times. So their mind stops believing them. That's psychology. Your brain learns from evidence, not words. You can say, "I'm serious this time," all you want. Your brain doesn't care. Your brain asks one question. What have you done consistently? That's the key. Big goals without small systems create self-betrayal. Every missed promise chips away at identity. So when it's time to restart, you don't aim high. You aim certain. You aim so small you cannot fail. Because success compounds faster than motivation ever will. It's not about ambition. It's about discipline. Say it. It's not about motivation, it's about discipline. Let's talk behavior. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop using goals to feel good about yourself. Goals are not trophies. They are directions. When you announce goals without action, you get a false sense of progress. And false progress kills urgency. Stop trying to get your life together all at once. That's emotional thinking. Emotion fades. Systems remain. Now here's what you must start doing. You must shrink the restart. Shrink it until it feels almost too easy. Because consistency beats intensity. Boys, that's the key. Let's look at real examples. Someone who wants to rebuild fitness. They don't start with a 1-hour workout. They start with 10 push-ups. Every day. No excuses. Rain or shine. Someone rebuilding focus. They don't meditate for an hour. They sit in silence for 2 minutes. Daily. Same time. Same place. Someone rebuilding discipline. They don't overhaul their routine. They make their bed. Every morning. No matter what. Why does this work? Because identity follows action. Every small win sends a message. I do what I say. That message is powerful. And power grows quietly. That's the key. Small discipline beats big intention. Now listen. The weak voice will mock small starts. It will say, that's not enough. That won't change anything. You need to do more. That's the weak voice. And the weak voice always speaks first. The strong voice speaks last. The strong voice says, do it anyway. Because discipline is not loud. It's patient. You don't need their permission to restart small. Not your friends. Not your family. Not even your past self. You have a choice. Now let's talk about daily wins. A daily win is not about achievement. It's about completion. Did you do what you said you would do today? Yes or no? That's it. No emotional grading. No excuses. Completion builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds capacity. That's the chain. But you can't skip steps. That's the key. Most people want confidence first. Wrong order. Confidence comes last. After proof. After repetition. After boring consistency. Say it again. Small discipline beats big intention. Now let's get very practical. I'm going to give you a reset protocol. Simple. Effective. Step 1. Choose one habit. Not 3. Not 5. But something measurable. Something small. Example. 10 minutes of focused work. 1 page of reading. 1 glass of water upon waking. 5 minutes of stretching. Step 2. Attach it to an existing routine. After brushing your teeth. Before checking your phone. Right after waking up. This removes decision fatigue. Discipline thrives on structure. Step 3. Track completion. Not performance. You're not judging quality. You're checking a box. Did you do it? That's a win. Step 4. Do not expand for 14 days. This is where people sabotage themselves. They feel good and add more. Don't let the habits settle. Let identity catch up. That's discipline. It's not about speed. It's about permanence. That's the key. Now understand this. Restarting small is not weakness. It's intelligence. It means you respect how change actually works. People who restart big are chasing emotion. People who restart small are building systems. Systems win. Every time. Now let's address the past. You might be thinking, I've tried this before. I always fall off. So what? Falling off doesn't disqualify you. Quitting does. Restarting is a skill. And like any skill, it improves with repetition. You don't judge yourself for restarting. You practice restarting. That's the reported discipline. Every restart is proof you haven't given up. That matters. Now listen closely. Your brain does not care about streaks. It cares about patterns. If you miss a day, you return the next day. No drama. No punishment. That response builds resilience. Perfection is fragile. Consistency is durable. That's the key. You have a choice. You can demand perfection and quit, or you can accept imperfection and continue. Choose wisely. Now let's talk about confidence. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a record of kept promises. Small promises. Daily promises. When you keep them, you walk differently. You speak differently. You think differently. Not because you're hyped. Because you're grounded. That's real confidence. It doesn't shout. It stands. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. Say it. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Now let's talk about scale. Eventually, small habits grow. But only after they are automatic. Automatic habits don't require willpower. They just happen. That's the goal. When discipline becomes default, you've won. But you don't force that. You earn it. Day by day. Win by win. Now here's a warning. Don't compare your restart to someone else's middle. That's poison. Everyone rebuilds at their own pace. Comparison leads to impatience. Impatience leads to quitting. Focus on your lane. Your wins. Your discipline. That's the key. Now pause. Ask yourself, what is one small action I can complete today without negotiation? Not tomorrow. Today. Decide it. Commit to it. Then execute. No emotion. No discussion. Just action. That's how identity changes. One quiet win at a time. You've learned to protect focus. You've learned to conserve energy. You've learned to stop negotiating with weakness. Now you're learning how to rebuild. Properly. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Disciplined. Because discipline doesn't care how you feel. It cares what you do. And what you do daily becomes who you are. That's the truth. You don't rise to your goals. You sink to your systems. So build them small. Build them strong. Build them daily. Small discipline beats big intention. Lock that in. You've restarted the right way. Now it's time to understand what keeps most people stuck after they start. Because starting is one thing. Continuing is another. And continuing requires mastery of one final skill. You've won today. Now prepare for tomorrow. Chapter 11. Identity is built through repetition. You don't become who you want by deciding once. You become who you are by repeating daily. That's the truth most people avoid. They think identity is a declaration. They think confidence is a mindset. They think discipline is a personality trait. Wrong. Identity is built through repetition. Slowly, quietly, relentlessly. You don't believe your goals. You believe your habits. Say it again. You don't believe your goals. You believe your habits. That's the key. Look at your life honestly. Not what you want it to be. Not what you say you're working toward. What you actually do. That behavior is your real identity. Not your intentions. Not your affirmations. Your actions. Repeated actions. You have a choice. You can keep calling yourself someone you are not yet, or you can start acting like the person you want to become. One repetition at a time. Now let's break this down. Psychologically, your brain does not change through inspiration. It changes through evidence. Every time you repeat a behavior, your brain updates its belief about you. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who shows up. I am someone who quits. Those beliefs aren't chosen. They're earned. That's why talking doesn't work. That's why hype fades. Because identity is not built by emotion. It's built by proof. That's the key. Most people live with an identity gap. They see themselves one way. They behave another way. That gap creates stress, shame, inconsistency. So they try to close the gap with motivation. Doesn't work. The only way to close the gap is through alignment. Behavior first. Identity follows. Never the other way around. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. Say it. It's not about confidence, it's about discipline. Now listen closely. Every habit you repeat is a vote. A vote for the person you are becoming. One vote doesn't decide the election, but daily voting does. That's how identity forms. So if you want to become focused, you practice focus. If you want to become calm, you practice calm. If you want to become consistent, you practice consistency. You don't wait to feel like those things. You act. That's the key. Let's talk about what you must stop doing. Stop saying, "I'm trying." Trying is an escape word. Trying means you're emotionally attached but behaviorally inconsistent. Replace "I'm trying" with "I do." Or don't say anything at all. Stop identifying with your past. "I've always been lazy." "I'm bad with discipline." "I'm not consistent." Those are stories, and stories keep you stuck. Your past behavior explains you. It does not define you. You don't need their permission to change your identity. Not your parents. Not your friends. Not even your old self. You have a choice. Now here's what you must start doing. You must start thinking in terms of identity-based actions, not outcomes. Ask a better question. Not "what do I want?" but "who do I want to be today?" Then act accordingly. A focused person closes tabs. A disciplined person starts on time. A calm person pauses before reacting. Small actions. Repeated. That's how identity shifts. That's the key. Let's get practical again. I'm going to give you a simple framework. 3 steps. Use it daily. Step 1. Choose the identity you're building. Not 10 identities. 1 or 2. Examples. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who stays calm under pressure. I am someone who trains daily. Step 2. Define the smallest behavior that proves that identity. Finisher? Complete one task fully. No multitasking. Take one slow breath before responding. Consistent? Show up for 5 minutes. Step 3. Repeat it until it feels normal. Not exciting. Not hard. Normal. That's when identity locks in. That's the key. Most people quit too early. They act once or twice and expect a transformation. Identity doesn't respond to occasional effort. It responds to patterns. You don't believe your goals. You believe your habits. Say it again. Now let's talk about resistance. Because resistance will show up. It always does. Your old identity will fight back. Not violently. Subtly. It will say, "This doesn't matter. You can skip today. You deserve a break." That's not logic. That's the old identity protecting itself. Every identity wants to survive. Your job is to out-repeat it. That's discipline. The weak voice speaks first. The strong voice speaks last. And the strong voice says, "Do it anyway." That's the key. Now understand this. You don't need massive change to become a new person. You need consistent proof. Most identity shifts happen quietly. No announcement. No applause. Just private wins. And those private wins change how you see yourself. Once self-perception changes, behavior becomes easier. That's the loop. Behavior, belief, behavior. Not belief, behavior. That's a lie. Now let's address impatience. Impatience is the enemy of identity. You want results before roots. But roots grow underground. Invisible. You don't see progress at first. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means it's working. Trust repetition. That's the key. Now let's talk about calm. A calm identity is built by repeated regulation, not avoidance. You don't become calm by avoiding stress. You become calm by responding correctly to stress. Again and again. Breathe. You have a choice. That moment is everything. That moment is where identity is shaped. Now consistency. Consistency is not about intensity. It's about return speed. How fast do you come back after you slip? That defines you. Anyone can start. Consistent people return. Without drama. Without punishment. Without quitting. That's discipline. Say it. It's not about the flaw, it's about discipline. Now let's talk about self-trust. Self-trust is not built by believing in yourself. It's built by being reliable. When you do what you said you would do, your mind relaxes, because it knows you're not lying anymore. That's peace. That's confidence. That's power. And it only comes through repetition. Now here's a hard truth. You don't get to pick your identity without earning it. You can't claim discipline without discipline. You can't claim focus without focused behavior. You can't claim calm without calm actions. But the good news? You can start earning today. With one action, one repetition. You have a choice. Right now. Decide who you're practicing being today. Not forever. Today. Then act once. That's enough. Do it again tomorrow. That's identity. You don't believe your goals. You believe your habits. Lock that in. You are no longer chasing motivation. You are building a person. Brick by brick. Behavior by behavior. This is how real change lasts. This is how discipline becomes identity. You've learned how to restart small. You've learned how to win daily. You've learned how identity is formed. Now there's one final obstacle. One thing that destroys discipline faster than anything else. Noise. Constant noise. External noise. Internal noise. And if you don't master it, everything you've built will leak away. You've built the foundation. Now it's time to protect it. Chapter 12. This is who you are now. This is not a moment. This is not a mood. This is not a motivational high that fades by morning. This is an identity shift. This is who you are now. Not because you feel different, but because you act differently. That's the key. Most people wait for permission to change. They wait for approval. They wait for confidence. They wait for certainty. You didn't. You acted. And action changes identity. You have a choice. And you've been making it. Again. And again. And again. Reset. Restart. Refocus. Say it. Reset. Restart. Refocus. That is no longer a slogan. It's a behavior pattern. You are no longer living on autopilot. You are no longer reacting to everything. You are no longer negotiating with weakness. You pause. You choose. You act. That's discipline. And discipline changes everything. Now listen carefully. Identity is not what you say in public. It's what you default to in private. When no one is watching. When no one is clapping. When it's uncomfortable. That's where identity lives. And that's where you've been training. Quietly. You stopped reacting. You started resetting. You stopped waiting for motivation. You started acting on discipline. You stopped dragging the past. You closed chapters. You stopped overthinking. You moved. You stopped letting your environment control you. You audited it. You stopped chasing energy. You generated it. You stopped negotiating with your weak side. You let the strong voice speak last. You stopped saying yes out of guilt. You protected focus. You restarted small. You won daily. You repeated until identity formed. That's not luck. That's work. And work compounds. That's the key. Now here's the truth most people never hear. You don't need to become someone new. You need to stay consistent with who you've proven yourself to be. That's it. The danger now is not failure. The danger is forgetting. Forgetting why this matters. Forgetting how far you've come. Forgetting what discipline feels like. So we lock it in. Right now. You don't look back. Not with regret. Not with nostalgia. The past is data. Nothing more. You are not going back to old habits to check something. You already know where that road leads. You have a choice. And you've chosen forward. Now let's talk about how people lose progress. Not through one big mistake. Through small compromises. I'll skip today. I deserve a break. It won't matter. That's how identity erodes. Not dramatically. Quietly. So here's the rule. Non-negotiables stay non-negotiable. Your reset ritual. Your small daily discipline. Your focus window. These are not optional when life gets busy. They are more important when life gets busy. That's the key. Discipline is not something you turn on when things are easy. It's what carries you when they're not. Now listen. You are not aiming for perfection. You are aiming for alignment. When you slip, you don't spiral. You reset, restart, refocus. Say it again. Reset, restart, refocus. That loop is your safety net. You don't fall apart anymore. You correct. That's maturity. That's control. Now let's anchor this identity. You are a reset thinker. That means you don't let one bad moment poison the day. You interrupt patterns early. You refuse to spiral. You are a deliberate actor. That means you don't wait to feel ready. You move when it's time to move. Committed. You are a focused finisher. That means you complete. You don't have to. You don't abandon. You close loops. You finish. That identity is built. And it's fragile only if you stop practicing it. So you keep practicing. Daily. That's discipline. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. Say it. Now let's talk about confidence one last time. Confidence is not loud. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't announce itself. Confidence is quiet certainty. The certainty that you will do what needs to be done. Even when it's boring. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when no one notices. That certainty comes from repetition. And you've been repeating. That's the key. You don't need their permission to live this way. Not your friends. Not your family. Not society. Some people will feel uncomfortable around you now. Your boundaries. Your focus. Your calm. That's not your problem. That's growth. Let them adjust. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. You stay disciplined to stay aligned. Now here's your final instruction. Simple. Permanent. Every day, ask one question. What does discipline require today? Not what feels good. Not what's convenient. What does discipline require? Then do that. And stop. That's enough. You don't need to optimize everything. You need to execute the basics consistently. That's where power lives. Now breathe. Notice the difference. Less noise. More clarity. Less chaos. More control. That's not accidental. That's earned. And it's yours to keep. If you choose to. You have a choice. Every morning. Every moment. Reset. Restart. Refocus. This is who you are now. Not because you said it. Because you proved it. Again and again. And this doesn't end here. This becomes how you live. Quietly disciplined. Ruthlessly focused. Calm under pressure. You don't chase the future. You build it. One controlled day at a time. Lock it in. The work continues. But now, you continue as someone different. Someone disciplined. Someone deliberate. Someone consistent. This is who you are now. And you don't go backward from here. You don't need another restart tomorrow. You need to honor the reset you made today. Because clarity isn't found. It's enforced. Focus isn't discovered. It's defended. And control isn't given. It's taken, daily, From this moment forward, you move differently. You think deliberately. You act without negotiation. You reset when life pulls you off course. You restart without shame. And you refocus without apology. This audiobook ends here. But the standard does not. Now close this audio. Choose one action. And prove, today, that this reset was real.